Live fitter and longer with the Fitzness Show, hosted by fitness expert, author, and TV personality Fitz Koehler. She'll tell you why diets are dumb, supplements are snake oil, and the truth about how you can earn a lean, hard, pain-free, and athletic body. Now for our favorite bossy blonde, Fitz Koehler.
Hi team, I'm Fitz Koehler, your fitness expert and very noisy race announcer from Fitzness.com, right there. And welcome to the Fitzness Show. Today, I have one of the greatest guests I could wish for. If you're watching the intro, which I altered for this special guest because I thought, a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you looked in on that last frame, Kathrine Switzer, the woman who registered legally to run the Boston Marathon in 1967, was under the radar that she was gasped, a woman running the race. And race director showed up on the course, found her and said, you're getting off my course, girl. And got a little rough and tough with Kathrine and her running buddies. And thankfully, she decided to run faster, run forward and finish that race, changing the face of running for women and probably a whole bunch of other sports as well. It's interesting, my background, I competed as a full contact kickboxer for 10 years. And I never even thought who was first, who was the first woman to step into the ring and try to kick somebody in the head. There had to be two of them, right? There had to be two. I need to look that up. But I can tell you that when I was fighting, I had that Olympic dream and I would have happily dropped my kicks so I could box in the Olympics. But there wasn't the opportunity. They just said no to women's boxing. And thankfully that's changed. But someone had to fight for that ability. And I don't even think Kathrine thought she was showing up that day to fight for women's rights. She was just going to run a race. And she's made an incredible career out of that day, that race, that moment, which was dramatically captured in images, and it probably changed the way she would live her life. She has spent the rest of her days helping other women get fit, get active, build both mental and physical strength through sport. And as you know, that's what I'm all about as well. So Kathrine Switzer is my guest. She's also, she's also fast, right? So she was at one point the 6th fastest woman in the world. And she was the New York City Marathon champion on a 100-degree day, which is pretty impressive. She's the author of several books, including Her Fearless Run, Marathon Woman, Running and Walking for Women Over 40, and also the founder of 261 Fearless. Welcome to the Fitzness Show, Kathrine Switzer.
Well, thank you so much, Fitz. It's so great being here. Thank you for having me.
What a treat. So you are coming all the way from
Wellington, New Zealand. Can you imagine? It's astonishing. My husband, Roger Robinson, and I live in both countries, in the United States and in New Zealand. And we just happened to be here last year when the COVID epidemic hit. And we said, listen, it's crazy to go back to America. I mean, at least New Zealand has this pretty much in control. And we've been here 19 months. And you know what, Fitz, I got to tell you, we've been living in an alternative universe, and we are so happy because we have been COVID-free in this country since last August. That's awesome. So we've had road races, no masks, cafes, concerts, hugging people. And I feel really sorry for the rest of the world. I mean, I'm not gloating. I'm just really grateful for being here.
What an awesome place to be stuck. And I'm in that one state in the Union, Florida, which has also been living pretty free for quite a while now. We're leading the charge for the continental US, but yeah, New Zealand sounds pretty fancy and fantastic for a variety of reasons. Will you be back soon?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that we fly back maybe in September and be there in time for the Boston and New York City marathons and anything else that eventuates. But the question is, can we get back to New Zealand easily? Even our Olympic team now, which have gone to Tokyo, have to quarantine for 2 weeks when they get back. So not sure we really want to go into the quarantine, but we'll be with each other. It'd be okay. We'll write another book or something.
Yeah, you guys are pretty productive. So 2 weeks of romance and writing, I could see it all. Now, Kathrine, before we dig too deep, there's a huge percentage of my audience is made of runners and probably does know your story, but then I have a bunch of just regular fitness fanatics, and apparently there's some people who just like me who don't exercise at all. Do you mind rehashing your tale from your first Boston Marathon for us?
Well, Fitz, this can be an endless story, like 45 minutes long, or we can do it in 4 or 5 minutes. So let's do the shorter version so we can get into questions and everything else. Here's the story. When I was 20 years old, I was a junior at Syracuse University, and I wanted to run because there was no intercollegiate sports for women. And I asked the track coach if I could run on the men's cross country team, and he said, no, not officially, but if you want to come work out with us, it's fine, thinking I'd never show up. So I showed up. The guys were wonderful. Okay, that's the first big step. Men in running have always been wonderful to women who run. We've been really blessed that way. But there was one guy in particular who was a volunteer coach. He was 50. He was ancient, and he had run the Boston Marathon 15 times. And he took me under his wing because he felt so sorry for me. I wasn't anywhere near as fast as these guys. And they're all scholarship guys. And so we began running together, and we realized that I was really good as we got longer and longer, but I couldn't go very fast. And so I told him that one day I wanted to run the Boston Marathon. And he just sort of laughed. He said, well, a girl couldn't possibly do it. And I said, well, why not? I mean, I started with you at 3 miles and now we're up to 10. And he said, yeah, but 10 is not, 26. And I said, I know that, but I mean, I can improve. And he said, no, a woman can't do it. And so I rattled off a bunch of names of women who had run a marathon, including Roberta Gibb, who'd run the Boston Marathon in 1966, jumped out of the bushes and ran. He didn't believe it. He said it was fake news. and honestly, we argued so badly that finally he said, look, if you showed me in practice that you could do it, I'd be the first person to take you, for heaven's sakes, realizing that, no way. So anyway, we trained. And the day came to run 42 kilometers, 26 miles. And I didn't think it was going to be long enough. So I said, listen, let's make sure it's really long enough. So let's run another loop of 5 miles. And that was going to be a 31-mile run or a 50K run. Ultra. And he said, well, you're kidding. And I said, no, come on, let's keep going. And we finished this workout, and I threw my arms around him. I was so excited after 31 miles, and he passed out. And when he passed out, he came to, and he said, women have hidden potential in endurance and stamina. And so that's when we really discovered kind of this other planet, which was that women really do have exceptional capacity and probably superior capacity in endurance and stamina than men. And that's is bearing out now in ultra sports, as we see finally. And so he said, look, okay, I'm taking you to Boston. So he was the one who insisted I officially register. He said, listen, this is a serious race. He says, it's like the Olympics. You don't go just jump into this. And I said, well, what do I do? And he helped me. He had an entry form. He signed up. I signed up. We had to provide our AAU numbers in those days and travel permits, a medical certificate. We had to do all this paperwork. And we had to pay an entry fee. It was $2. That was a big deal. Anyway, I got all this stuff together, and, we got all ready to go. And at the very last minute, my boyfriend, who happened to be an Olympic aspirant in the hammer throw, weighing 235 pounds, decided he was going to go to Boston too. I said, oh, come on, Tom, give me a break. And he said, well, if a girl can do it, I can do it. And I said, Tom, don't come to Boston. You've never trained more than a mile. He said, if a girl can do it, I can do it. He clearly thought it was a piece of cake. Anyway, so he came along with us. And in the morning of the race, snowing and sleeting, horrible weather. And I was really disappointed because I had this really cute shorts and top. I wanted to show off a little bit. And I had to wear my baggy gray sweats and gloves and everything. But I guess in the fullness of time, that was an advantage because all the men could tell I was a woman and were excited about it and welcoming me. But the officials were so busy. Everybody looked alike to them. We all looked like refugees. And it was like 2018 at the Boston Marathon. Everybody wore everything they had. It was just terrible. Anyway, so the gun went off. Down the street we went, and now I'm really relieved. At last, we're at Boston, going to Mecca. And a mile and a half into the race, the press truck came by and started taking pictures. And we were waving at the press truck. And right behind the press truck came the officials' truck. And the officials were the timers, the scorers, and a guy by the name of Jacques Semple, the co-race director. And he was getting teased by journalists who were on that truck, saying, there's a girl in your race. She's wearing numbers. And he just lost it. You know, he was an overworked race director. He was a product of his time. Anyway, right. Lost his temper. Boston was his baby. Thought I was making a fool of him. And he came up behind me. I didn't see him, I only heard him at the last minute because I heard his shoes coming fast. And I turned around really quick and he just grabbed me and screamed, get the hell out of my race and give me those numbers. He tried to rip off my bib numbers. And I was just so shocked and blindsided. I jumped away from him and then he grabbed me again and pulled me back and tried to rip my numbers off the front. And he missed my front, so he went for the ones on my back. I caught the corner of it. I actually have it here. Hold on, let me get it for you. There it is. There's the number.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool? And see, let me get this right. I get this. I've got my cell phone here. This is I can't go which way it goes. Okay.
The clue.
There you go. Okay. Anyway, and my coach was screaming at him, leave her alone. She's okay. I've trained her. And with that, my boyfriend took him out with a crossbody block and sent him flying. And Arnie, my coach, said, run like hell. And down the street we went. And the press truck stayed with me and was so mean and so aggressive. What are you trying to prove? When are you going to drop out? When are you going to drop out? When are you going to drop out? Quit. When are you going to quit? You're not serious. You can't be serious. And it was, I was only 20. And this was a reward from my coach for proving to him in practice that I could do it. I wasn't there as a political person or making a statement, but I did the best thing at that moment. Instead of being afraid, I got really angry. And I just turned to my coach and I said, I am finishing this race on my hands and my knees if I have to. If I don't finish this race, nobody's going to believe a woman can do it. I know I can finish this race. And so I am going to finish this race. And he said, okay, let's just slow down. Let's just get it together. And that's what we did. Finally, the press truck left and my decision was made. And it wasn't until I went over Heartbreak Hill, about 21 miles, that I realized, there's no point in being angry at the official because he was just a product of his time. Right. And then I got angry at women. I wondered, why aren't they here? Why don't they get this? And then I realized, that they weren't there because they were afraid that things like this happened to them all the time. Whether it was, going into getting accepted into medical school or law school or even, participating in sports or anything. And everybody, told you weren't going to succeed and then made sure you didn't succeed. And of course, then to try, who's going to try? You're afraid. And I thought, oh my God. It was my feminist kind of eureka moment. Sure. And I said, I've got to finish this race and then create opportunities for other women. And then I also have to become a better athlete because I was running a 4:20 marathon that day. And I knew that I was going to get pilloried for a jogging time. And that's the next day, the race director said, I could have walked it that fast. That pissed me off so much that I just trained my brains out. And when I trained down to a 2:51, he shut up. But actually, here's what happened. I got suspended, actually expelled from the Athletic Federation for running with men, for running more than a mile and a half, for running without a chaperone, and for running, and this is the worst, for running with men. I mean, that's so sexually loaded. Like, what? Like, who else am I going to run with?
I have no words.
Amazing. So it was a totally, I guess, maturing moment. I often say I started the Boston Marathon as a girl and I finished it as a grown woman. And I really did. I learned so much from that moment. And I also learned how to be really fearless because I knew what was going to happen afterwards was going to be a lot harder than what happened in the race. And I was going to stick to my guns. And eventually what has happened, and that's what this interview is going to be about today, I know, is what has happened is nothing less than the most miraculous social revolution. And for men and women, of women's achievement, empowerment, of belief in their success, of their capabilities, of reaching out, of changing the world in terms of what women's sense of limitation is and is not. Running is just transformational for us. And I think everybody listening to the show realizes that. It is quite miraculous. And I'll tell you something, I'm 74 now. I've been running for 63 years, and every day is a miraculous experience. It is like, it has given me the best things in my life. And I'm not at all afraid of saying that. And every day is truly magic that I run.
I love that. I love that. I feel a very kindred spirit with you. You're a can-do girl who wants to invest in tough situations and wants to pay it forward and bring other people up. So thank you for recapping that. I know you've told that story a billion times at least, but it's special to hear it here. And so my questions, you go through the finish line, did they give you a medal?
They didn't have medals in those days. No, it was really strange. The first 30 guys got a medal. Okay. And then I think the first 15 got trophies. And then the next, no, sorry, the first, it was the first 10 got trophies, and the next 20 got medals, and that was it. Oh gosh, Boston Marathon didn't even give medals until the late 80s.
Oh,
they didn't even have a decently measured course to the middle ladies. When I ran in 1975, there were 5,000 people there. They said, we've got to do something about these numbers. It's crazy. And I said, well, one thing you can do about these numbers is actually put out toilets. They had 11 toilets for 5,000 people. So you can imagine the people in Hopkinton didn't really like the race very much starting in their town, because everybody was, peeing in the bushes. So in the rose bushes. I said, this is pretty simple, you guys. You want to have a race, you got to do some organization. Anyway, no, the Boston Marathon now and the BAA is a transformed organization, a wonderful, wonderful organization. Dave McGilver, the race director, unbelievable man, what he can do. And that race is impeccably organized. So it's been a wonder to see it grow and mature in all ways that the sport has.
Absolutely. Well, I'll get to experience that this October. I'm going to be running from the start to the finish of the Boston Marathon.
I'll see you there. It looks like I'm going to be coming back for it, so I'll look forward to seeing you, Fitz.
Good.
Great.
It'll be my first, and I may put up numbers that Jacques may mock, but I'm going to cross it.
Jacques may mock.
So I think it's amazing. Like, one of the shocking, bizarre things about you running Boston was that they actually changed the rules and made it illegal for women to run for 5 years post. And it's ghastly and amazing to look back and think that people thought that way.
I know. So people say, well, wait a minute, you had to cheat on signing that entry form. I said, no, I signed with my initials, but it wasn't to defraud them. That's how I signed my name. For two reasons. One, because my dad misspelled my name on Kathrine on my birth certificate. It's always misspelled. And of course, I was working as a journalist, and I had been reading J.D. Salinger, E.E. Cummings, and T.S. Eliot. So along about age 13, I started signing my name K.V. Switzer. Okay. So that was how I signed the form. But the form had nothing about gender on it. And the entry form, that's what I mean. The entry form had nothing about gender on it. And actually, then my coach and I went through the rule book, the AAU rule book, and there was nothing about gender in the marathon in the rule book. So the idea of Boston Marathon up to that point being male only was one of those traditions that, oh, come on, everybody knows it's a male only race. And also, don't forget, Roberta Gibb had jumped out of the bushes the year before with no problems. And so I said, okay, well, she's already done it. And it was my coach who insisted I register. He said, this is a serious race. You got to pay your entry fee. You got to do this. So I was just, funnily enough, obeying the rules. And then afterwards, the entry form came out for the next 5 years and said, this is a men's only event in boldface type. And by the way, I was expelled because I had fraudulently entered the race, supposedly, but other men had signed their names with their initials, and almost all the officials on the program were using their initials. So I thought, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's such an interesting sign of the times, and I do think it's very generous of you to say, well, he's a product of his generation, and there's a lot of things that date back that are kind of, confusing. But last night we spoke, and we logged on together. We made sure to get on the studio software, but we talked about the Tour de France, that there is no Tour de France for women.
My good friend Kathrine Bertine has been campaigning for this for so long, and I don't get it. I really absolutely don't get it. And I think the people listening would be absolutely appalled. I mean, the men go by so fast and the women would go by so fast. The difference in time, by the way, in the pelotons is only like 3 or 4 minutes. So it's hardly slower. I submit that women's running in the Olympics, in the Olympic marathon in Boston and New York is as interesting a story as the men's. We provide an interesting dynamic. Honest to God, as I told you last night, if I were the president of a Fortune 500 company, I would grab that women's cycling Tour de France and create something really magical about it. It's all through the countryside. I mean, you're not exactly taking up space.
Why would they not do one and the other? What other gaps do you see within women's sports that I'm not acknowledging yet?
Oh, Fitz, I mean, sorry, there are millions and millions of gaps.
Yeah.
And they all have to do with our experience of understanding and watching. Okay. So for instance, I mean, I go back a long way. All right. I can remember when Billie Jean King and co started women's professional tennis. And they just got hooted out and said, nobody's going to pay to watch women's tennis. Are you crazy? This is stupid. Equal pay for the women. Well, now, is not women's tennis arguably as totally interesting, compelling, and top viewing as men's? It is. It is. Okay. I mean, and then you take a woman like Serena Williams. You don't want to miss that game, man. Really. Women's soccer, okay, is only beginning, in my view, to emerge. And I love it. I like it much more than men's soccer. Why? I don't like all the histrionics in men's soccer and that diving and, fake, It's not that the women play a cleaner game. It's that I can actually watch the strategy better. Right. And I like the continuousness of the game, and it doesn't keep stopping and fouling and goals. I mean, penalty kicks and stuff. It just goes. So, but you know what? They're different sports in a way. Men's is about speed and power. Women's is about maybe the finesse, the strategy, the endurance. And it earlier on in this discussion, I said that women have more endurance and stamina than men. And it's true. We're beginning to win the ultras, 6-day races, 3-day events, 24-hour runs. Oh, in Auckland last week, 2 weeks ago, we had this big event called Last Man Standing. And it basically you run until you drop, okay? And for the last 2 years, a woman has won the Last Man Standing. So how does this translate into a lot of other things? It doesn't mean one athlete's better than the other. It means we're different. But if you look at the history of Olympic sport, for instance, 3,000 years, roughly, of Olympic sport. It's all been about speed, power, and strength. Women, I mean, were in the beginning even forbidden to watch the Olympic Games. So the fact that we're in them is quite a landmark. But we don't have yet a lot of events which give us opportunities for our unique capabilities. And so we've got to create those. And that's one reason why I fought so hard to get the women's marathon in the Olympic Games. A lot of us were fighting for this, but we needed to prove to the International Olympic Committee that we deserved to be there. And the way to do that, I felt, was to create so many opportunities for women only in running around the world that we could present the data and statistics to the IOC. And we did. Eventually, with the Avon Cosmetics company, I organized races in 27 countries and 5 continents, which far exceeded the Olympic requirement. But at the same time, we had to get medical data to prove, that a woman's uterus was not going to fall out if she ran a long distance.
Fantastic, yeah.
Quite the contrary. I mean, she's probably better at the marathon than she is at the shot put, if you see what I mean, or the 100-meter hurdles. So it is about what we can offer. And I think an interesting thing, I'm not showing off here, but night before last, I spoke at the UN, the Council of Human Rights.
Yes.
And I said, because it was a kickoff on how human rights and sports can work together. And it was done on the eve of the Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics. And I said, do sports always have to be the same in the Olympics? No. It's a living, breathing thing. What is to keep us from having, let's say, a 24-hour run or a 6-day race, maybe with half the team is men and half the team is women?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of diversity and inclusion we see in a road race all the time. So I think it could bring really great dynamic to the Olympic Games. So we just have to think out of the box some more, and we have to encourage women and men to think out of the box and to create events that are really great. Running has done amazing things in terms of its creativity. So, but we still have a long way to go.
So I'm going to pause for two things. A, I'm so sorry to all of our people that have been sending in comments. I've been laser focused on Kathrine and not seeing that people are commenting and going, hey, I love you. So Rudy started as a girl, finished as a woman. As good as it gets. I agree. So there's some love coming in, and I'm not going to ignore you guys anymore. So there's some hot topics within sports I'd like your thoughts on. So there's, the wage gap. And I'm all for equal pay, equal opportunity, but the men's sports simply bring in a greater profit. Where do you stand on that?
Oh, well, I mean, it's almost unreal. It's almost unreal, what top football players are getting around the world, whether it's gridiron football in the United States or it's with the European Championships going on right now, right? Those guys are making godzillion dollars. Okay, I don't resent people earning a lot of money when they do something well. I really don't. But to say that women don't deserve it because they're not interesting or they don't play an interesting game, it's a matter of time and exposure. So if we could get more pay and more sponsorship, people actually take you seriously when you get paid well. That's really interesting.
Right.
and
when before the horse type thing.
Yeah. So when we make it happen, then they get taken seriously. So I do, and I believe hugely in corporate sponsorship because you can't ask governments to keep paying for it. But I also find it's not just a disparity with women; it's a disparity with poor people. I mean, poverty, religious restriction, social restriction, all these things are holding us back enormously. And there is so much talent out there. I mean, talent really is everywhere. It just needs an opportunity. Right. And so, again, I would love to see not these players necessarily give back any of their money, but they could easily afford to do a tax write-off by creating different kinds of programs and scholarships and community outreach to create different opportunities, create sports, create the events. And that would be really cool. And what a legacy that would be. I mean, I found when I sat down one day, I had the opportunity to create the Avon program. I had a very tearful afternoon with myself because I knew that meant there's no way I was going to have the time to train for a marathon and run it the way I wanted to run it. And I said, you know what? You've always wanted to be a jogger, not have to run and prove yourself all the time. And I threw myself into that career and realized this sponsorship, is going to change the face of women's running and therefore sports, and it did. So there are many, many opportunities out there, and there's a lot of corporate money that could be better spent, I think, on that, rather than pouring it all in to, let's say, soccer, where maybe you get one advertising hoarding around the stadium. How about creating a whole community program so a kid grows up loyal to you? I mean, that is fantastic.
Right.
But sometimes people just want to write the check and they don't want to do the work.
Now, do you think there's anyone, for example, in the WNBA who should be making the same amount that LeBron makes?
Do I think that? Yes, in an optimistic, ideal world, sure. Sure, sure. But the point is they need to attract the audience, and in soccer, the women need to fill the stadium.
Yes,
But
right.
they will do that if they continue to get the exposure,
Yeah.
and if the events are pumped up. It's been proved time and time again. Everybody said nobody would watch the women's marathon in the Olympic Games. Are you kidding? There were 95,000 people. Every seat in the stadium was filled.
Yeah, and when when our teams go to World Cup, I mean, they're the hottest ticket on the world, but they just don't fill up the stadiums during their pro leagues, which is
Yes, well, then that's a shame on the community. The community needs to get there and support, and advertising needs to go into that, and you need to get buses out there for the kids to get there, that kind of stuff. Give them the wherewithal.
So Dennis Levman wants to know, how were you able to make money from running back in the days?
I didn't.
You didn't.
We weren't allowed to. I mean, I was scrupulous about not taking money because the big guns and money were taking it what we call under the table. We had something called amateur status. We were amateur athletes, and therefore you had a job, and it was shameful to take money. And if you did take money, you were going to get kicked out of the organization. And so, for instance, when I was banned after running the Boston Marathon, that's like being excommunicated from the church. Okay. And when I got back into the running, a lot of sponsors came to me and said, "We'd like you to wear, our name on your shirt when you run the Boston Marathon." I said, "No way, I can't do that, because if I was found to take money, I would lose my amateur status." And it was a huge fight. And you guys got to do your history here. There's a lot written about this. Roger Robinson is particularly good on this. I'm partial to him because he's my husband. But anyway, read about how runners themselves took control of the sport and helped it to go pro, because that was a huge, huge controversy. All of us who wanted to go pro were risking our status of going to the Olympic Games. So it was a choice. A lot of those athletes had to make that choice. And then they set up, their athletic federation set up trust funds and et cetera, et cetera. And finally, then they said, "This is ridiculous. Well, let's just make running professional like everything else." And then the professional athletes, as you know now, can go to the Olympic Games.
That's right. Right. Yeah. It's, I remember when I was in grad school at the University of Florida, my master's was sports administration, and we had a course on the Olympic Games, and that's about when I started fighting. And that amateur status, for the love of sport, that really resonated with me. And I remember making the choice when I was fighting not to go pro, just because I didn't want to put a price tag over my head. I just thought, I really enjoy this. And if I have to go into the ring worrying about my mortgage, that might take away some of the enjoyment. So I think there's something special about the amateur status. It's not the only way to go, but yeah, it's certainly nice to make a living off the sport.
Well, I must say we were really, really hamstrung. I mean, read any book about Steve Prefontaine. All right. Here was a young man who was one of the fastest 5,000 meters runner in the world. And he was filling the stadium at University of Oregon. People were paying big bucks to go see him, television rights, et cetera, et cetera. And he's living in a trailer. And he said, "Look, what's wrong with this picture? They're coming here to see me. I deserve, an income here, or a piece of the gate or something." Oh my God, the press took him apart like he was the bad old boy, smart ass kid. What are you talking about? And the press was really always trying to get athletes and find out that they had taken. Oh, there was this wonderful athlete called Wes Santee, and he was going to be one of the first guys to break the 4-minute mile. And he had taken, it was a bribe actually. He had taken a gift of a prize that was, you couldn't take a gift that was worth more than $20 or something like that. And somebody had said the first prize is this camera. And so he took the prize, the camera. Well, then somebody revealed that the camera was actually worth $40, and they kicked him out of the AAU. Wow. Because he said, "You're a professional." And here was a guy who was living off the sniff of an oily rag. Oh, I mean, I cannot tell you how our athletes suffered. Oh my God, I was working 3 jobs and putting a husband through grad school when I was training 100 miles a week. It was a very, very difficult time in my life. I wrote a lot about it in my book, Marathon Woman. Everybody thinks that book is, about running, but it's actually not about running. It's about the struggle. and about the prices you pay.
You-
And I just think how much better my life would have been if, I mean, we couldn't even afford gas for our cars to go to races and stuff. So really ridiculous. So I am very, very happy what the athletes can do now.
You have so much interesting history in your head. I love it. I could talk to you for 100 hours, Kathrine. All right, we got another hard-hitting question from Dennis. What are your thoughts about biological males competing in women's track and field events? Do you think there should be a third category?
You know what? First of all, I don't have enough science to answer that question well. Let me tell you 2 or 3 things, though. First of all, I am delighted that we can have this conversation. I mean, isn't it great? Sport is for everybody. I believe that everybody on the planet deserves the opportunity to participate in sports, all right? Regardless of gender, color, race, religion, whatever, all right? That is very, very important for me. But we also have to keep it fair. And I don't have the science right now at hand to do that. We're working on it really hard. There are 2 things that bother me a little bit. One is that I really, really hate the fact that, especially in the United States, there are a lot of politicians who are jumping on this cause and creating this incendiary discussion and creating divisions and hatred. I hate that. This is the second thing. Let's not be emotional. Let's not be crazy about this. Let's sit down and talk about it. We're smart people. We can figure this out. And, but I just have to smile and say, oh my God, I'm running in a race, and the guy next to me is a different race and different color, doesn't speak my language, and I can't tell the gender of the person on my right. And you know what? We're hugging each other, at the end of the race and motivating each other. And, we have the ability to be diverse and inclusive and respectful. Yeah. So, I can remember back when I was first started running, one of the big fears for a woman was, oh my God, maybe you'll turn into a lesbian, like, oh my God, who cares, So we've come such a long way. I know we can get through this.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I want everybody to be able to participate. I mean, health and fitness is for everybody. I always say fitness is unpolitical. I want the Republicans and the Democrats and the intermediate people, I want them all to exercise and eat right. And so I'm hoping people come up with solutions that are fair and suit the best interests of everybody. Yeah, it's a tough situation, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Sure, but things are difficult. I mean, convincing the International Olympic Committee that women were capable of running a marathon was difficult. So we'll get there. But we have to be able to sit down and discuss it and get the science and get it sorted out. There's room on the track for everybody. There's room on the road for everybody.
Yeah, you know what? That's one of my favorite things about our races is that, it's the unifying thing. 26.2 miles or 3.1 miles is the same no matter who you are, no matter where you came from. You have to left, right the whole way. And we can all do that together. There's a quote I pulled up for you. And this is why I love what I do. This is why I love standing at a finish line, because you said, if you're losing faith in human nature, go out and watch a marathon. And it's almost absurd that people pay me to do this work because it's so fulfilling. It's the best thing ever, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm glad you're getting paid.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I earn my living and I provide a great service to my event. But
that quote is actually, I get credit for the quote, but the quote is actually was my husband's, and it was from the book we wrote together called 26.2 Marathon Stories, and the next thing we knew, we saw it on T-shirts. We went to a marathon someplace and people were walking around saying, "Here's your shirt with my quote on, your quote on," and I said, "Well, that's nice. Where's my percentage?" No, that's fine. That's fine.
All right. Pretty has a great question. What effect, if any, do you think having no spectators in Tokyo might have on the Olympic competition?
You know what? My husband and I were talking about this at breakfast this morning, and I said, "Oh, these poor people." I just, for some, it's going to be great. because for especially a beginning athlete, a young athlete, to walk into that stadium with 90 or 100,000 people in, is you just can't even catch your breath. It's so overwhelming, and so for some of them it's going to be good. For others, it's going to be disappointing because it's their big day. It's their big moment, and it deserves to be showcased. I just hope they just fill the stands with cardboard cutouts of people or something. Artificial crowd noise or something. But yeah, I mean, look, here's the other point. Let's be optimistic as much as we can about this. You got to hand it to the Japanese for going. Well, some people don't. Some people think the Olympics should be canceled completely. I don't think that's going to accomplish too much right now. It's just going to disappoint a lot of people. A lot of work has been put into this. Let's give them a hand for trying to be creative and making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. These athletes don't need another year out of competition, or worse, the cancellations. So anything that gets them to their start lines or on their courts and mats, it's a win, don't you think?
I think so. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, already a great number of athletes have lost out already because, last year was going to be their final year and they were going to retire or whatever, or they passed their peak or they gotten pregnant or whatever. Yeah. Life has been diabolical with this pandemic in so many ways.
Great word.
We've done our best. We've really done our best.
So I'm going to left turn, and I want you to talk about 261 Fearless, because you do so much work to help women build mental and physical strength through running and walking, and I love that.
Thank you. Well, who would have imagined? I did this bib number before. I'm going to try to hold it up correctly now. Let's see if I can do this. There it is. How about that? There we go. And you can see the rip now on the corner. All right. So that's the number that Jock Semple tried to rip off of me in the race. And oddly, I never thought of that bib number, for 50 years, 40 years anyway. It was 3 digits. And then suddenly people began writing to me and emailing me and sending me pictures of themselves getting ready to run a race. And they'd have their bib number on for Boston or New York or whatever on the front. And then they'd turn around and then they'd have, 261 on their back, or they'd ink it on their arm. Or then they started sending me pictures of their tattoos with 261. Well, honest to God, I got the creeps because I said, what does this mean? And oh God, and all the numerologists weighed in. And you know what is very simple? People were telling me that all their lives they'd been marginalized, that people said they didn't count or they never felt worthwhile. And then they started to run and started to feel like we feel fearless. You feel fearless, invincible. And that it changed their lives. And they were doing that as a tribute. And I was so touched by that. But then my friends and I sat down and I said, what are we going to do with this? I said, I'm too old to start another revolution. They said, no, you're not. What we got to do something with it. And what we did is we created a nonprofit called 261 Fearless, because everybody uses the word fearless in this, because running makes you feel fearless. And basically what we have now, and we continue, it are a series of community clubs where us fearless women will reach out to somebody who is fearful, or somebody who's afraid to take the first step, or somebody says they can't do something and they can't run, a woman. It has to be women only, by the way, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But anyway, women around the world, and get them to take that first step. It's always the hardest thing, is to get your shoes on and get out the door. We all know that. Yet if you have a community that's waiting for you that is non-judgmental, we don't care about your color, your age, your size, your ability. We just want you to come out and get fit. Take an hour a week for yourself. That's all. So just get away from all the other crap in your life and come out for an hour a week. And it's really catching on and giving the women that empowerment of, if you can take 1 step, you can take 2. If you can do 1K, you can do 5K, that kind of thing. No, it's not competitive. But also now we've created an educational component with this. So women can learn to start a club. They can learn to start a nonprofit. They can learn to coach and train other women. They can take a leadership role. Eventually, they could even create a club that a nonprofit where they actually earn, can make it like a small business, a nonprofit business, helping other people, reaching out in the community. So we think the educational component is extremely, extremely important, because at 2 steps, when you become empowered and you get an education, that means you can take control of your own life. Honest to God, there are most women in the world still live in a fearful situation. It's a terribly sad thing, but it's true. And she, we always think, oh, well, she's in a different country from me, or she's in the depths of the jungle, or in Afghanistan or something. Honestly, she could be your next door neighbor. And you never know what demons await. So we just reach out, and it's become really quite amazing. And we have a very, very good training program, and I would encourage everybody to join us with two things right now. Go to 261fearless.org. Read the website. Sorry about I'm bouncing this camera around. Take our training course. Think about starting a club in your own neighborhood. The other thing is we do a lot of fundraising with our charity bibs in the Boston, New York City, Marine Corps, and Chicago marathons. And I am happy to announce that we have a surprise bonus of about 5 bibs right now available for the Boston Marathon in October. So if anybody wants to join us and raise money, you still have time to be ready for October the 11th, and we will help you on the way to make that happen. So go to 261fearless.org and come and run with us in October also at Boston. It'd be great. You know what? And Fitz, you're running.
I am.
So you're making history, because when again will the Boston Marathon ever be held in October? Never.
No.
Right?
No. I'm actually looking to see if some of my friends take some of your bibs. They may be able to give me a piggyback ride once I head home. And they're like, come on, Fitz. So, gosh, it would be great. I love having the Noisy Nation out there and our friends. So, yeah, great opportunity to run Boston, do it for free.
Fantastic. Can you imagine how it felt? We essentially kicked off 261 Fearless globally at the 2017 Boston Marathon. And I had announced that I was going to run it on my 50th anniversary. It was a really good time. I was 70. And it was also the year we were really at last 50-50 in the Boston Marathon, men and women. It was spectacular. And we were given a number of charity bibs. And in the end, we had 125 people on our charity team. We were like 118 women and 7 men. We wanted 7 men because that was the number of guys who helped me out at the Boston Marathon in 1967. And we had a ball, but they raised enough money to start 261 Fearless globally. And we are so grateful for them and everybody else who has been helping us along the way, including you and Vince Ferrallo at Boston Buddies. He introduced us, Fitz. And great group of people.
I remember seeing all the coverage of you and your group in 2017. Very impressive. I think that's when I started doing the big deep dive into Kathrine Switzer. I was like, I gotta learn more. And for anyone who hasn't done it yet, I've shared the link in all platforms where we're broadcasting, but 261fearless.org, and she just told the story, but she actually has personally written it out herself, and of course she has books that will do an even deeper dive on the subject. But you are a very interesting person. We could really spend a lot of time just talking about Kathrine Switzer for a long time.
What in my book, or what are you talking about?
No,
now?
Just in general. You're so interesting. Your history is so interesting.
No, I was interested in talking about myself. I find talking about myself like the least interesting thing to talk about. You've got has been an amazing life, I must say.
So, do you see more marathons in your future?
Oh yeah, I hope to run Tokyo next year and in 2022. I don't know. I know it's a little cheesy, but I would love to have the big 6 in my back pocket. I've been around the world over and over again to attend all these marathons and sometimes work as a journalist or a TV commentator. But I hadn't run them myself. So I started knocking them off, and Tokyo was going to be on my list for 2021. And unfortunately, it's not going to happen really. And I also got quite injured, and I'm coming out of that. So hopefully I'll be ready for 2022. And believe it or not, after broadcasting it several times, and being there lots, I have never run Chicago. So Carrie Pinkowski is going to have to deal with me in a couple of years.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't think it's cheesy at all to want to do those the World Marathon Challenge or the Big Six World Marathon Challenge. Dennis Lebman just put on. Do you have any interest in 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents?
No, my credit card can't take it.
I bet you get a sponsor. I bet Avon would jump right on board and be like, "Hey, we got your back, Kathrine." Besides Boston, I'm going to remove that because that's a very special place for you. What are your favorite races you've run?
Boston has always been my favorite. I've run it 9 times. I love it because it's so important to my history, and the course itself is interesting. I thought London was spectacularly fun as well. I've run Berlin is really terrific. Athens was it wasn't a fun race at all because it's very, very difficult. But memorably, the 2500th anniversary of the Battle of Marathon, to be there and to run Athens on that particular marathon day was really very, very, very special. I would say I get as much fun sometimes from running a really local, dopey little race in the countryside, where it's like going back in the 60s and people just sort of show up and they have their number magic markered on the back of their hand, and then they have to get their own time when they come across the finish line. And then you go into the old schoolhouse and have a cup of tea or something. I love those things. But if I had to choose any one race that was my absolute favorite, it would always be Boston.
Wow, I can't wait to figure out why. I'm going to go see for myself. Well,
you're going to be surprised. I mean, it starts in a little village, and you wind through the streets of the suburbs, and everybody acts like there's an authority along the side of the course. And at 10 miles, they're going to tell you only have 2 miles to go.
Right. I'm punched as people bring out my kickboxing skills. It's interesting. Some people are like, get a drone or watch drone footage. And I actually want to be surprised. I'm the girl who I also don't watch trailers for movies I'm interested in seeing. If I know I'm going to watch a movie, I'm not going to watch the trailer. So I've heard a lot about Heartbreak Hill, and I've heard a lot about the start. And I've actually been to the finish line just working in Boston. But yeah, I'm looking forward to all the surprises along the way.
Okay, we'll bring a pair of gloves.
Okay.
All right. Because it could be really cold. You don't know what the weather's going to be like. And no matter what, cotton gloves are always very, very handy because, you can get away with wearing less if your hands are warm. So, and, it's always good for sweat and snot too.
I'm a snot. We get invitations, LA Marathon, and of course, we'd love to see you at Big Sur Marathon. Have you done Big Sur?
No, I haven't done Big Sur. It's beautiful. I know. I've been over the course. It's really quite beautiful. I must say I'm a little spoiled being here in New Zealand because almost all of New Zealand is like Big Sur. So it's really quite magic. But yeah, that's on the list someday.
Good. I know that. So I tell you what, I know you've been welcome to a lot of finish lines. I will make sure the greatest welcome of all time comes out of my mouth if you run one of my races.
Great. I would love to do that.
All right, Kathrine, are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure. I'm not sure what that is, but
a bunch of random questions that you get to answer fairly quickly or slowly if you want.
Okay. Here I go.
All right. What's your favorite movie?
Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, good choice. What TV show are you watching right now?
I don't watch TV.
Love it.
I haven't watched TV we don't even have it connected.
That means you don't get the horrible news either, which is...
You know what? And it's always biased. I listen to Radio New Zealand, the BBC. I don't... it's incredible how much time you save when you don't watch TV.
Yes.
But, we're thinking about what are we going to do now for the Olympics? We're going to have to get some kind of TV thing in there. I do watch sports. Okay. Not religiously, but Monday I'm going to watch, England and Italy. In soccer.
Sports is different than TV. That doesn't count.
Okay.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Margot Fontaine, the ballerina, very, very amazing ballerina, English, and then she married a South American. She took something so difficult and made it so beautiful, and it inspired me. because everybody said the marathon is so gruesome and gross. I thought it could be beautiful. So I thought if Margot could do it with ballet, I could do it with marathon.
There's probably not a lot of snot in ballet.
Yeah, but there's a lot of vomit and blood. Believe me, it is tough. It is inhuman, really. Go backstage.
It's such a great vocabulary. Inhuman. What is your favorite genre of music?
Oh, golly. Well, classical, I guess, really. I mean, I love Mozart and I love opera. I absolutely adore opera.
Oh.
But I don't know. I mean, you can give me country western sometimes, and I'm a sucker for it.
All right. Who would your favorite musical artist be?
Well, I mean, Amadeus Mozart would probably be my favorite artist. Chuck Berry.
It's a great choice.
Mozart and Chuck Berry. I'm a sucker for Chuck Berry.
Now, if you were to run a marathon and you could only listen to one song over and over and over again, what would it be?
Well, first of all, I never listen to music when I run. I mean, I don't want any devices. I mean, I'm kicking and screaming to wear a watch. All right. I'd love to go naked. I don't want anything. I mean, that's what I love about running is just nothing. And so the idea of even listen, I love music along the way because that's fun because people are having a great time with it. But if I had to listen to one song over and over again, right back where we started from by 1975. God, come on, I know a Nightingale.
That's a great
not Florence Nightingale. It was such a great song, and it was the song. Every time I heard that before I started a practice or a race, I knew I was going to have a good day.
That's a great song. I like that a lot. Are you a good dancer?
No, I'd like to think I am. I used to be for about 2 years, but no, I'm not anymore. As I've gotten older, I seem to have gotten clumsy and lost a lot of balance, and now I kind of look ridiculous. So I have to say, no, I'm not a good dancer.
Okay. You prefer sweet or salty?
I know a lot of guys in my past would say that's not true, but anyway.
Well, their opinion counts. Do you prefer sweet or salty?
Salty.
What's the hard?
I don't even buy potato chips.
Oh,
you come in from a run. I'll have a bag of potato chips before I even have a glass of water. I mean, it's just stupid. So I don't even buy them.
I'm salty too. Though I used to like sweet. Now it's all salty all the time. And I have stopped off a few times at McDonald's to get French fries, which is right. That's illegal, isn't it? Illegal that people can do that.
I don't know.
It is. Someone's gonna arrest me one day. What is your favorite healthy food?
Avocado.
Yummy. What's your favorite unhealthy food?
Well, I don't know if people think pasta is unhealthy. I think it's quite healthy, but I mean, pasta, I eat pasta 3 times a week. So I would say that. And I suppose my favorite unhealthy food, and again, this has good nutrition in a way, but I mean, I love ice cream,
What flavor?
Butter pecan ice cream because it has the salty nuts in it.
That's right. Have you tried salted caramel?
Yeah, I could do that too.
Really good. I have actually had salted caramel chocolate chip cookies, which once again, probably illegal, but very delicious.
My other favorite unhealthy food, I suppose it's unhealthy, but I find it life-saving, is coffee. I've tried to limit myself to 1 big mug a day, but it's not easy.
Tea. What was it? Where'd it go? Oh, besides running and walking and hiking, anything on your list, what is your favorite exercise?
I like a kind of Pilates that I make up myself, which are both strength exercises and yoga exercises. And I love several times a day, I just go lie on the living room floor and stretch and do these exercises just because they're as relaxing as they are good for me.
Absolutely. Very valuable strength training.
Yeah. I'm incredibly supple, and I know it's because I've done that all my life. And sometimes people come over to chat or something, and after a while I'm on the floor stretching and talking to them at the same time, and I hope they don't think it's rude, but it's like, I'm multitasking.
Walking the walk, I bet they probably go home and do what you do. They're probably like, well, Kathrine's on the ground stretching. I should do that too. So
I would love to think that. I don't think so, though.
And then my question is, what's next?
Oh, man, that is always a tough thing. I'm riddled with guilt that during lockdown, I didn't write another book. But I mean, I had so many other things to do, and so many, honestly, my speaking opportunities have gotten enormous now because of Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's really, and I don't know about you, but I mean, the method of communication now has changed our lives so completely that it makes you more accessible and therefore, in more demand. So I've been doing a tremendous number of speeches on Zoom. So I haven't written my book, but that book. But there is another important book that's there, and I'm going to try to get that done. In the meantime, however, here's some interesting, fun news. It's just Marathon Woman. Here, I'll give a copy of it in case you haven't seen it. Ta-da, the Marathon Woman, right?
Beautiful.
That's the 4th edition copy of it. It's being made into a feature film. So we're all going to have a really fun time. Hopefully in a couple of years, maybe less, maybe 18 months.
That's absolutely a big what's next. That's huge.
That's a very big what's next. And I think probably to a certain extent, my not writing another book has been, I'm trying to clear the decks and get my life organized, trying to get closets clean, trying to get through photographs and piles of paper, get the decks cleared, because I think when the film happens, my life is going to be taken over by it for a while.
Absolutely. Do you have any guess who will play you in the movie?
No, I was making so many jokes about Margot Robbie, but
great choice.
No, it's not going to happen. She read the script and loved it, but she's booked for 5 years. So by that time, she's going to be too old.
Okay. All right. So someone young, someone also with spectacular eyes. You have such beautiful eyes.
Oh, my eyes are so painful right now. I had cataract surgery, and I just haven't gotten adjusted to it. It's just been very difficult for me, but that's another story.
They're like glass. They're absolutely beautiful. Are they green or blue or a cross between?
Yeah, they're kind of a limpid blue. They used to be this color blue, but anyway.
Boston blue, perhaps.
Boston blue.
Well, Kathrine, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute treat. I wish you lived closer. I'd invite you over. You're a fun girl.
That's okay. We can communicate like this, and we can still stay in our pajama bottoms. It's great.
Yeah, and then we get to actually see each other in October. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait to see you.
Great. And Fitz, if something happens and I don't see you there because I'm not there or something, but anyway, good luck in the race. Start slow, finish fast. You know the drill. Enjoy the process. And for everybody else who's listening, I want to thank the audience for their incredible participation in this. It's been so much fun. But also, please go to our website, 261fearless.org. And really, there are 5 bibs out there available. And I'd love to see you guys on our team. We'd have so much fun. And we do a lot of personal stuff. We're the most passionate, happiest team in Boston. And if you can imagine it, you get a full bag of Adidas gear, tights, shoes, jacket, hat, shirt, everything. And we have a good time. We treat you very well.
That sounds like a good deal. Well, I'm going to share that on my page. I'll share it in other avenues for you. And yeah, you're doing amazing things, and just a pioneer. I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
And Fitz, thanks for all you're doing, spreading the word. Everybody stay healthy, stay happy.
All right. Take care, Kathrine. Bye, everybody. If you haven't done so already, go visit Kathrine at 261 Fearless and visit me at fitzness.com and get to work. Bye, y'all.